Truth and consequences. Dr. Anthony Fauci admitted this week that he knew COVID lockdowns would lead to collateral negative consequences for the economy and for our children. Now, he says that he did it because hospitals were being overrun, which of course he did not say at the time. He also blamed social media for any confusion, a convenient enemy, some say. Of course, he also altered several of his other statements along the way, such as the one about how the vaccines would prevent people from getting COVID. And the journey for truth is hardly unique to Fauci. It knows no party line, no age boundary, and no higher or lower value for men and women around the globe. But there is a solution when we're all dealing in something less than the truth. And that brings us to our next major event. We are roughly 7 weeks now from one of the most consequential elections of our time, an election that comes amidst skyrocketing inflation, rising interest rates, societal division, fragile supply chains, the increasing criminalization of politics, and now even the threat of nuclear war in Ukraine. But arguably, our biggest threat is indeed the war on truth. Let's start with one recent example. It was his first television interview after a long absence, and his first since the FBI raid at Mar-a-Lago. Trump told his favorite TV host and confidant, Sean Hannity, that presidents have the right to declassify what they choose.
If you're the president of the United States, you can declassify just by saying it's declassified, even by thinking about it, because you're sending it to Mar-a-Lago or to wherever you're sending it. And there doesn't have to be a process. There can be a process, but there doesn't have to be. You're the president. You make that decision. So when you send it, it's declassified. I declassified everything.
It was classic Trump, the plain-spoken, casual but imprecise style, which endears him to his base, infuriates his opponents, and may well help the multitude of government lawyers who are out to get him. As law professor and occasional Trump defender Jonathan Turley tweeted, quote, in the Fox interview, Trump suggested that he could declassify any or all documents, quote, with a thought. It is a position likely to further alienate both the special master and the appellate court, end quote. And for rabid Trump haters like former special prosecutor Robert Mueller's so-called pit bull, Andrew Weissman, Trump's offhanded remarks were like manna from heaven, especially coming after an appeals court ruled this week against Trump's claim of rightful possession of the classified documents.
In one day, you have the 11th Circuit with the majority of the panel being appointed by judges appointed by Donald Trump, finding that Donald Trump, among other things, had no possessory interest in these documents.
The layperson like you or me is left to wonder, who's telling the truth? In an age where the center of the political world is largely gone, where the great compromisers of the past like a Gerald Ford or a Bob Dole or a John Kennedy have been replaced by power-seeking partisans, it is harder to tell the truth from spin. Our doubts reinforced by exchanges like this. Watch Republican Senator Josh Hawley accuse President Biden's nominee for the National Archivist of a political bias in a paper she wrote. Now, remember, she's the nominee to head the office that first alerted the FBI to Trump's possession of classified papers.
You say at one point Republicans tend to exhibit anti-intellectual qualities. Democrats, on the other hand, coalesce on the intellectual tail of the continuum. So is the point that Republicans are stupid and Democrats are intellectual?
Yes, thank you, Senator, for that question. Absolutely not. The point of the article is that the presidents that I featured in it have a rhetorical connection with the American people.
It's a piece on rhetoric, but you attribute part of the anti-intellectualism of the Republican Party to, in your words, the rise of the religious right. Mm-hmm. Tell me about that. Is it because those voters are stupid?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. Absolutely not. And if I am confirmed as Archivist of the United States, I look forward to welcoming all Americans to the National Archives.
So do you think that people who voted for Donald Trump are anti-intellectual?
Thank you, Senator. I would not make any judgment on the people who voted for President Trump or any other president.
So you don't think the people who voted for Dwight Eisenhower or Ronald Reagan or George W. Bush, they weren't anti-intellectual? The anti-intellectual rhetoric just appealed to them because what? What's your theory?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. As I said, presidents are able to speak in common sense, plain terms to Americans that they understand.
Even our doubts in the judicial system are heightened when, as yesterday, a prosecutor brazenly charged Trump with over 200 pages of inflating the value of his real estate holdings. It may well be that Trump did that, But should we take it at face value from a prosecutor who ran for office on a pledge to get Trump?
Running for Attorney General because I will never be afraid to challenge this illegitimate president. We must do our job to ensure that the man currently occupying the Oval Office is held accountable to any and everything he has done.
So again, who's telling the truth? And then there's another event from this week that should raise your skepticism about what's real and what's not. The Twitter sphere lit up with retweets of this video of Joe Biden at the UN. Post-speech, apparently lost on stage, not knowing where to turn, what to do. To his many critics, it seemed to be more evidence of the president's faltering cognitive abilities. It may well be that he is declining, but if you examine the full footage provided by C-SPAN, it shows the president completing his speech, walking stage right to the stairwell where an aide gestures for him to stay put. But where, the president's hands appear to suggest. He doesn't speak, but that's not out of confusion, but because someone else is speaking from the same stage. Ultimately, the aide's gesture for Biden to stay on stage makes sense when a group of people walk up on stage for their prearranged photo op with the American commander-in-chief. The moral of this little story is, if you're looking for the truth in a world where everyone is spinning or seeking power, maybe look to a higher power.
Hi, I'm Doug McKelway, and thank you for watching Centerpoint. We hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. Leave a comment below and keep the conversation going by sharing this video with a friend who needs to see it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.